everyone. Richard Marchbanks, our treasurer, and I are just going to have a quick conversation to try and fill you in a little bit more on the financial situation we've been highlighting recently. We want everyone to have the information. We're facing quite a big challenge at the moment, which hopefully will be short term in that there might be some significant changes to come in the next year or two, but there's certainly a bridge between now and then that needs to be covered. As a church, we are involved in lots of mission and increasing activity and discipleship. And we're also a church with vision and direction. I don't know if you remember when I was licensed 6 years ago, but you gave me a bottle of wine. I think, did you give that bottle of wine?
I can't remember.
You can't remember. But the idea behind there was releasing potential, doing new things, unplugging, if you like, the potential of St. Mark's. And also an iPhone, which was about developing the vision and the networking and new forms of church. So over the past 6 years, we've been developing a vision and a team and a strategy around that to take things forward. What we'd like to do is just take you through the main weekly costs that it takes to have St. Mark's be the church it is, and then just talk a bit more detail about those. Every week we pay a share to the diocese of £4,800. It's really important to know that some of that comes straight back to us because it covers clergy costs. So it covers my costs and it covers some of Dan's costs. However, the vast majority of it does go out to be a blessing to other parishes and areas in the diocese. And that's right, we should be a net contributor to the diocese. So the share increased over the last few years. When I arrived, it was £3,700 a week. And at the moment it's £4,800 a week, which is fine, but it has meant that over the last 6 years we've paid an extra £250,000 in that share, and that's put us under some pressure.
What's happened over the last 10 years is that we've been on a mechanism set a number of years ago geared to the size of the church, the relative wealth of the area in which the church sits, and we were well below that upper target when we first started on the new scheme a few years ago. So for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, we were suffering 10% per annum increases in our share. That was then stopped a couple of years ago, 3 years ago I think, and we had a couple of years of nil increases, and then purely an inflationary increase for 2016. With the amalgamation of the three dioceses into the one new one, they've had to completely revisit the way that the share is being calculated. It's being agreed this summer, hopefully, for implementation either in 2017 or 2018. And current estimations, current indications are that we should see both a reduction, but also potentially that share covering Dan's position. We will become a two clergy parish to recognise really the size of the parish, the congregation, and the work to be done within the ministry team.
Every week we have general running costs of ministry and mission and budgets for youth work and children's work and music and admin and groups of £600. Every week it costs £900 for some of our team positions: associate minister post, Kingdom Life, which is our mission and outreach post, and pastoral director. Every week we invest in the next generation through our youth budget, through our youth worker, our youth pastor Natalie, £700. And every week we give away £800, which is our tithe, because as a church we embrace the principle of tithing. So we've supported lots of good causes each week. And last year, in response to the unmet social needs that we'd identified in the town, we actually gave away more than that to help with youth mental health as a church, because as a church we're called to be a blessing to the community. Finally, there are costs to our buildings and our admin of £2,300 a week. The other area last year particularly was around our building costs. We did have a contingency fund that we'd been built up over the years, but nevertheless we had to pay quite a lot in terms of maintaining the building, Richard. So can you just talk a bit about that?
Yeah, we have or have had for the last few years a reserve for building-related costs, where the quinquennial inspection comes around every 5 years. We know about that; it's all planned. However, the actual expenditure is recognised as costs in the year in which the expenditure is incurred. The current quinquennial work was all done during 2015. £57,000 was actually spent on quinquennial repairs. There's about another £6,000 or £7,000 that's going through in this year. At the end of 2014, we had around about £28,000 of reserves left in that were allocated for the building. Those were all spent, and at the end of the year, end of 2015, we had fully utilised that reserve. The balance of the 57,000 had to come out of our general reserve.
So notwithstanding these pressures of the increase in share and the expense on the building, over the last few years, the church and the PCC have been seeking this vision of the wine bottle and the iPhone, and increasing the team that leads the church to reflect the size of the church we are and take that mission forward. And I believe, and the PCC believes, that taking forward the vision of St. Mark's has been the right thing to do. We could have gone into maintenance mode as a church and just been about keeping what we have as if it's ours in the first place, but we've stepped out and wanted to be a church with a vision and continue to do so. So at the moment, our income as a church, through the fantastic giving of the people of the church, which over the last 6 years has risen by over £100,000, our weekly giving is £9,000 a week. The average family or person gives £24 a week to the work of St. Mark's. The difference between our costs and our income is still a difference of £1,100 a week currently. Recently, we stopped passing a plate around in services. This was to make it more welcoming for newcomers particularly, but also because a lot of people give directly and it seemed to be superfluous in some ways. We had a lovely box created. Now, as it stands at the moment, that is not being used in the same way that the plates were, and therefore that is a situation that we need to address through better direct giving. This is an unsustainable situation, which may change, as Richard says, if the share changes and the diocese are able to pay for Dan. Nevertheless, in order to try and address this, recently, as you know, we have made some changes to our staffing at the church. And Richard, could you just clarify the figure for us there? It's £550 of cuts a week that we've made recently, and where has that come from?
Basically, that's come from reducing the job specification of our building stewards, now designated as caretakers, down to a purely cleaning role. So we have removed from the job spec the other issues that were non-cleaning. On top of that, we have reduced one of our administration positions within the office. So the combination of those two, the loss of one administrator position and the reducing of the caretaker hours, represents that £550 a week saving. And
in order to do that, we're still seeking somewhat to recalibrate those functions within the church, but under Mike's guidance, we've come a fair way. The good news is that this shortfall may well be addressed in the future by changes from the diocese. However, in the short term, we need to build a bridge that could be covered if 100 people in the church were able to give an extra £10 a week or start giving £10 a week. And as I shared on Sunday, that's something that I'm happy to do, and I've already had other people tell me they are too. The only people who can give to the work and mission of St. Mark's are the community of St. Mark's. And the way we're going to do it is that on the last 2 Sundays in July, the 17th and the 24th, we'll give people an opportunity to give that there and then. Giving grates a bit, but it's part of our worship and it's part of our belonging together. And so I'd ask you really to pray and work together to see if we can cover this shortfall, fund the mission, fund the vision, be a church that invests in the next generation. And if you aren't giving regularly at the moment, if you could consider joining in with that. Thanks for listening, and I hope that this has been helpful. If there's anything you'd like to ask me or Richard in the flesh, do take the opportunity to do so, because it's important that everyone has the information. Let's trust God that he will provide for the work that he wants us to do as he leads us through this time of dependence on him. Thank you, everyone.